If this week felt like a blur of half-finished tasks, endless notifications, and energy crashes, you're not alone. A large share of the workforce now spends at least part of the week working remotely, and with that shift has come more distractions and less separation between work and rest. If you're juggling classes, a side hustle, or remote work from an apartment that never feels quite set up, I get it. Today, I'll share 7 productivity hacks that actually work in 2025. Practical, not performative. One of these even helped me reclaim evenings that no longer felt like a to-do list. And it all starts with questioning one of the biggest myths we've been sold about productivity. The myth of perfect productivity setups. One of the biggest obstacles many of us face is the unspoken belief that productivity starts with having the perfect setup. You've seen how it's portrayed online: minimalist desks where everything lines up just right, soft lighting, maybe a candle flickering in the background, and a polished laptop beside a neat color-coded dashboard. The message is subtle but clear. If your workspace looks like this, you'll suddenly become efficient, calm, and unstoppable. But if you've ever bought the new chair, the new desk lamp, or maybe spent a weekend reorganizing your room only to feel just as unfocused the next day, you already know the reality. Those adjustments don't guarantee progress. They make things prettier, sometimes more comfortable, but they don't remove the harder challenge: beginning messy work in less than ideal conditions. Social platforms have intensified this belief. The scroll brings endless, study aesthetic clips, complete with pastel highlighted notes and perfectly balanced coffee mugs. It's especially tempting for students, many of whom end up focusing more on how their notebooks look in an Instagram post than on whether the material makes sense. Workspaces, notebooks, and routines have become content, and content has little to do with actual results. It's productivity packaged as a lifestyle image, not productivity as lived reality. And the trap is easy to fall into because we instinctively want our work to feel ordered and calm, not messy and frustrating. This is where the idea of productivity theater comes in. Productivity theater is about looking busy or organized, but producing very little that matters. It can be endlessly tinkering with your to-do list app instead of finishing the task you typed into it. It might be spending an hour carefully designing a new planner spread while your assignment sits untouched. Or it could be staging yet another photo of your workspace, telling yourself you're about to focus, while the real work still waits. Whole offices sometimes become experts at this stage play, everyone's schedule bursting with meetings, inboxes flooding with replies, but actual projects moving at a crawl. And here's the kicker. The average person now spends around 2 hours and 26 minutes per day on social media. That's enough time to write pages of an essay, exercise, or finish off a big assignment. Yet so much of it vanishes into watching other people perform productivity instead of doing it ourselves. The truth is that genuine productivity looks ordinary and sometimes uncomfortable. It's answering 3 key emails while you're sprawled on the couch with yesterday's dishes still sitting on the coffee table. It's opening your laptop at a cluttered kitchen counter and typing a page, even though the background noise won't stop. It rarely looks cinematic or polished. Our brains often protest. Wait until it's quiet. Wait until the desk is clean. Wait until there's a perfect 2-hour block. But that mythical moment hardly ever appears, and the longer we hold out for it, the more progress slips away. I once had a friend who dreamed of writing a novel, but insisted they couldn't start until they had the right office. They wanted cozy lighting, an inspiring space, maybe even eventually a cabin. Years went by, and the setup remained unfinished. Another friend tapped out whole stories on their phone during crowded subway commutes. One had the vision of perfection, the other had imperfect action. The second one now has a published collection of stories, while the first still hasn't begun. The difference wasn't talent. It was refusing to wait for every condition to align before doing the hard, messy work. And once you take that first small step, even in clumsy conditions, momentum builds. A rough draft makes editing fun instead of intimidating. A single page of notes makes studying tomorrow less overwhelming. Once progress exists, tidying your space or lighting that candle feels like an optional bonus, something to enjoy after real work has already begun. The satisfaction doesn't come from the setup. It comes from actually advancing, and the nicer environment just amplifies what's already underway. It helps to separate vibes from outcomes. The vibe is the curated desk photo or the pastel study notes. The outcome is the finished essay, the coded feature finally working, the report ready for a meeting. No one remembers whether you lit a candle while you typed. What stands out is whether the work was done, whether you showed up in moments that were imperfect yet productive. And that's often easier said than done, especially when your room feels chaotic or your budget doesn't stretch to matching accessories. But here's the good news. None of that disqualifies you. Many of the most reliable and inventive people carry on in cluttered, noisy conditions. Their edge isn't that they control the mess, it's that they stop waiting for its absence before making a next move. This is especially useful to remember if you sometimes feel guilty comparing your space with those polished feeds. If the reality for you is notes scribbled on a cramped desk or typing on a phone during a bus ride, don't dismiss that as not real work. That's exactly how creative progress has always been made. Generations before us built things in basements, cafes, and noisy apartments. They didn't wait for stillness. They grabbed what they could, when they could, and the compound effect of that built into something meaningful. So the practical takeaway is this. Progress doesn't require spotless setups, it requires imperfect consistency. If you catch yourself about to rearrange your workspace for the third time today, pause and ask, what's one small thing I can finish now? Often, it's better to crank out 10 disorderly minutes of effort than spend an hour restoring vibes. Each scrappy move adds momentum. That habit gradually produces more than months of waiting for ideal environments. And this reframes what productivity should even feel like. Instead of measuring it by how curated your environment looks, measure it by whether something concrete moved forward. Did a draft appear where there wasn't one yesterday? Did an assignment shift one step closer to submission? Did an idea make it onto paper instead of floating in your head? Those things create deep satisfaction, the kind social media frames with aesthetic setups but can't actually manufacture. Knowing this, the question becomes, if real productivity thrives in messy, unpredictable conditions, how do you make the most of those conditions? Because not all chaos is equal. Some moments slip away quickly, others can be reclaimed if you recognize them in time. And once you notice them, even the smallest scraps of a day can be turned into progress instead of lost minutes. That's the shift we'll take on next. The parking lot practice. One overlooked way to reclaim lost minutes is what I call the parking lot practice. The name comes straight from a story about writer and teacher Matthew Dix. Years ago, he showed up early for a dentist appointment, and while most people would have pulled out their phone to kill time in the car, he opened his laptop and began writing. That habit stuck. Over the years, he drafted large parts of his books from parking lots, waiting rooms, and other in-between places where most of us assume nothing useful can happen. Those scraps of time added up, word by word, until they became full manuscripts. That's the core of the practice, using odd, inconvenient moments to take a small step forward, even if the situation feels far from ideal. The parking lot practice works because it lowers expectations. You're not being asked to finish a polished draft while sitting in your car with the engine cooling down. Instead, you use the situation to capture one piece of progress. It might be 2 sentences of an essay or the rough sketch of an idea you'll polish later. The action is small, deliberately achievable, and you only need to redirect the moment you'd normally spend scrolling into a creative deposit. Modest contributions don't look like much while you're doing them, but they form the foundation of steady progress. Consider a simple case. You're at the doctor's office, half an hour behind schedule, with a dozen people waiting just as impatiently. The default choice is obvious. You reach for your feed, swipe through videos, wait out the time. But apply the parking lot practice in the same 10 minutes and you might draft 3 bullet points for a project proposal, type a working title for an article, or jot a question that could unlock your assignment. Nothing ambitious, just one small piece you can carry forward. Suddenly, you're not wasting time, you're gathering building blocks. The moment feels the same from the outside, but the inside looks different. This isn't a new idea. Writers have been doing versions of this for centuries. There are journals scratched out on trains, fragments scribbled in hospital wards, even poems and letters drafted from battle trenches. These weren't serene conditions with curated workspaces. And yet, those fragments endure because the people who wrote them didn't wait for silence, order, or the mythical perfect block of time. That history makes something clear. You don't need a flawless setup to create. You need only attention in the small stretches already available. So if others could write lines that survived through chaos, We can certainly draft a headline while parked outside the grocery store. At first, it will feel awkward. Yes, working in a car or whispering into your phone's recorder while you stand in line might seem unusual. But many successful creators and writers point back to exactly these kinds of snatched intervals as the hidden spaces where their first drafts emerged. Think of it as private progress. No one around will know what you're doing, but later they'll see the product of those small efforts. And it stops you from relying on perfect conditions that rarely show up on their own. Modern distractions, of course, fight against this habit everywhere. When you feel a gap in your day, your device offers you dozens of ways to fill it instantly. That's why waiting feels shorter now. Our idle minutes are quickly absorbed into endless streams of quick hits and micro-entertainment. The time isn't actually gone, but your attention is. The parking lot practice flips that around. It asks you to treat downtime as a signal, not a void. The moment you sense that default urge to open a feed, you replace it with a tiny output. The best way to pull that off is to carry a simple capture tool. You don't need a leather notebook, though if that works for you, use it. Nearly everyone already carries the simplest version, the Notes app on your phone. For those who think better on paper, a pocket-sized pad works just as well. The point is readiness. When the pause hits, you can react instantly, recording something useful before distraction reclaims the time. And don't overcomplicate it. This is not a demand for fully formed ideas. A voice memo, a 2-line brainstorm, a sketchy outline are enough. The standard is not elegance but capture. Technology today actually makes this practice easier than ever. Voice-to-text tools allow you to record while walking, waiting, or sitting in traffic, safely parked, of course. You can dictate a phrase or even a half-formed idea, and by the time you're back at your desk, it's waiting in text form. Some AI-powered apps even organize and summarize those notes, turning loose fragments into usable material later. You don't need to maintain order in the moment. You only need to grab the thought before it fades. If you add up these tiny inputs, they become more visible. Suppose you commit to 5 minutes a day of parking lot practice. That translates into 35 minutes each week. Over a month, you've gained more than 2 extra hours of progress without scheduling another appointment with your calendar. That's 2 hours of raw ideas, partial drafts, or brainstorm material that didn't exist before. Compare that to the same hours spent passively consuming whatever an algorithm offered you. And the difference in long-term outcomes is enormous. One strength of this method is how little pressure it applies. Carving out a large focus block demands energy, quiet, and trust that nothing will interrupt you. But no one expects their finest work from a bus seat or a checkout line. Paradoxically, that's what makes it easier to act. Because the stakes feel low, you actually create more. The real value comes after. You open your notes later and realize you've already done half the groundwork. Messy beginnings are still beginnings, and you're further ahead than if you'd waited for ideal timing. That sense of relief, that you don't have to waste time simply because a setting isn't perfect, is what makes the parking lot practice so sustainable. It frees you from the idea that productivity must be tied to certain conditions. You remember that creative momentum often surfaces in quick, clumsy spurts. Those spurts may not look cinematic, but they generate compound progress. They prove that even caught-off-guard minutes hold value if you decide they do. If you want to test this habit today, here's an easy move. The next time you're stuck in a short wait, open your Notes app and write 2 sentences. It could be a headline, a title idea, or one small action related to a project. That's it. 2 lines instead of 2 swipes. Repeat it often enough, and you'll train yourself to spot these chances instead of letting them drain away unnoticed. So here's a challenge. Try the parking lot practice once this week, save what you capture, and check back in 2 weeks. Look at how that note has aged. Did it spark a larger draft, an insight, or at least reduce friction when you return to the project? You might be surprised at how much groundwork can appear from intervals you barely noticed before. And once you've proven that small moments can carry hidden progress, it becomes impossible not to see how much more time we let slip through unnoticed, waiting for us to reclaim it. The 10-minute window effect. Sometimes the most useful opportunities hide in plain sight, and that's exactly what the 10-minute window effect is about. These are the small scraps of time we usually underestimate. The few minutes before a meeting begins, the lull when food is on its way, or that pause between finishing one task and starting the next. Most people think 10 minutes isn't enough to matter, and so they default to scrolling, aimless refreshing, or distractions that leave nothing behind. But those micro windows stack up. A handful each day becomes hours in a week. You don't need an uninterrupted block of time to get somewhere. Minutes can accumulate into progress far more reliably than waiting for everything to line up. A simple mindset shift unlocks this. If you were handed a $10 bill, you wouldn't dismiss it as worthless. You'd take it, because 10 becomes 20, then 100. Time works the same way, yet we toss it away because it doesn't feel big enough. Reframing 10 minutes as valuable instead of trivial changes what we do with it. Commit to treating that time as an investment, and suddenly there's space for real progress in places you barely notice. Picture walking into a meeting room a little early. Most of the people around you lean on their phones, scrolling through updates they won't remember 5 minutes later. Meanwhile, someone else opens a notes app, jots a few bullet points for an idea, or refines the outline of a project. 10 minutes later, the meeting begins, and they walk in with something tangible while everyone else leaves with digital static. Across weeks, months, years, this habit of claiming small windows turns into a visible gap in output. The science supports the effectiveness of these short bursts. Research shows that focused attention, even in sessions as small as 10-15 minutes, builds into measurable improvement. It's the same logic behind micro-workouts. A few push-ups, 2 minutes of stretching, none seem worth much in isolation, but added together across a month, they make a real difference. Creative work and professional output function the same way. Attention applied in small pockets is still attention, and when repeated, it compounds. Matthew Dix illustrates this perfectly in his writing practice. He points out that even a 7-minute window was enough for him to write a few sentences in his car. That didn't finish a book in a day, but string enough of those micro wins together, and the book appears. To turn this into an actual habit, it helps to swap the default script. Instead of telling yourself, 10 minutes isn't enough, try asking, what can I finish in 10 minutes? That single sentence changes your orientation toward time. It prompts you to scan for fit-sized opportunities rather than dismiss them outright. And many tasks we avoid don't take as long as we assume. You can draft the rough structure of an email, brainstorm 3 bullet points for a proposal, edit 1 messy paragraph, or even clear a small admin chore. Let's ground it in something practical. Here's a template you can keep in mind. If I have 10 minutes, I draft 1 headline, outline 3 bullet points, or edit 1 paragraph. That's all it takes. Each option is small but specific enough to act on. You won't get lost wondering what to do. The rule gives you instant direction. And often, the hardest part of working is simply getting started. Once something is down on paper, the next session feels lighter because the dreaded blank page is already gone. Humor also makes the point clearer. Waiting for a Zoom call to begin? That's not just scrolling time. That's 3 sentences you could add to a report or a half-finished email that finally moves closer to done. Sure, the call might interrupt before you're finished, but next time you return to the task, you're picking up midstream. That's a very different feeling than starting from scratch. Those small fragments ease the load of larger projects by shifting the starting line forward. Contrast the outcomes across a week. One person lets 6 10-minute openings dissolve into phone time, feeling perpetually behind and convinced they never have space to catch up. Another person uses those same 6 windows to outline content ideas, draft replies, and trim clutter from their notes. At the end of the week, the second person is tangibly ahead, all from time the first person considered disposable. It's not the schedule that separates them. It's the value each placed on the small windows hidden inside the day. Of course, there's friction. Our attention spans have been rewired by constant alerts and endless feeds. 10 minutes can feel too short to focus, too easy to abandon for convenience. The problem isn't that 10 minutes lacks power, it's that distraction feels effortless, while intentional focus requires a micro-decision to resist. That's why having a pre-selected list of quick-win tasks makes the process smoother. It removes the thinking barrier. When the window arrives, you already know what to grab. Think about it as matching task to context. If you've got 10 minutes, don't open the deepest, most complex project. Instead, pick actions designed for quick handling. Clean up yesterday's messy notes, revise a single paragraph, set reminders for small events, brainstorm 3 titles for a video, or capture 2 questions you want answered in tomorrow's meeting. Each is finite, bite-sized, and leaves you with something accomplished in the short stretch. Without that framing, you risk defaulting to scroll mode because the brain doesn't want to improvise under time pressure. Momentum then starts to build. Once you've trained yourself to produce in small bursts, your definition of enough time shifts. The person who proves they can write 3 useful sentences in a hallway won't rely on an uninterrupted block of 2 hours anymore. They know progress can happen outside ideal conditions. That makes procrastination weaker because the old excuse, "I don't have enough time," no longer holds up. Here's a simple way to make the habit stick. Set an actual timer. When you've got 10 minutes to spare, open a notes app or document, start a stopwatch, and give yourself the full span with one focused micro task. The timer creates a boundary. It also makes the session feel like a game, which increases the likelihood that you'll try it instead of slipping into autopilot. Even a 5-minute timer can serve as a visual nudge that turns nothing time into progress. Do the math, 10 minutes equals 600 seconds. Stack 30 such windows across a month, and you recover 5 solid hours you never scheduled. It's unlikely you'll suddenly clear 5 hours straight from your calendar, but you can reclaim these smaller stretches. That shift doesn't demand extra planning. It only requires that you stop abandoning the in-between minutes. Over time, those reclaimed pockets stop feeling incidental. They start to form a reliable foundation underneath your bigger goals. And that raises the next challenge. While capturing small wins inside 10-minute windows proves incredibly effective, some projects are simply too large or too intimidating to shrink into slices. Every person has one, the manuscript still in their head, the business idea waiting for courage, the thesis that never moves past the outline. These goals don't stall because we lack scraps of time. They stall because their scale feels overwhelming, and trying to attack them from the start often kills momentum before it begins. This is where the strategy must adapt. Nonlinear progress with the lily pad method. Why do so many large goals stall out before they ever really begin? Most of us have something sitting in the background of our minds, a book we'd like to write, an idea for a small business, a thesis project, or a personal creative goal. The reason these projects often fade isn't laziness, it's the way we imagine progress. We tend to picture a straight line. Start at step 1 and move in sequence step by step until the end. When reality doesn't match that picture, the project begins to feel impossible before it even leaves the ground. The assumption that progress must be linear ends up stopping us long before the work itself. School reinforced this mindset early. Assignments are structured in a predictable march. Introduction, body, conclusion, 1 unit at a time. That makes sense in a classroom context, but real projects rarely fit that mold. Human energy doesn't flow in neat order, it rises and dips, sometimes hourly. Certain parts of a project feel heavy, while others seem exciting. Expecting our output to always align with a fixed outline sets us up for stalls. One difficult section creates friction, and instead of skipping ahead, we hesitate. We wait until we feel ready. But readiness doesn't come in the right order very often, which is why so many goals burn out halfway through. The lily pad method offers a different model. The idea, popularized by storyteller and writer Matthew Dix, is simple. Stop marching in a straight line and picture your project as a pond. Each task is a lily pad floating on the surface. None of the pads demand to be first or last. You can land on whichever one seems reachable with the energy you have at the time. Maybe today you're drawn to drafting the conclusion. Tomorrow, it might be revising a single section in the middle. Over time, pieces connect until a full structure emerges. Skipping between pads doesn't mean disorganization. It means progress stays alive. Imagine you're writing a thesis. The conventional script says you must start by tackling the introduction, even if that's the least inspiring section. That blank page grows heavier every time you open the document, and waiting for the right spark only lengthens the stall. With the lily pad method, you allow yourself to work where your curiosity currently points. Maybe it's the discussion chapter, or a segment of the literature review you feel clear about today. Write 3 pages there. Later, the introduction is easier, because much of the scaffolding is already in place. You didn't force your way through a locked door, you walked in through the entrance that was open to you. This shift isn't about cutting corners. It's about aligning your effort with your natural interest in the moment. For readers of this script, imagine you're writing a memoir or creating a study guide. The rules whisper that you must begin at Chapter 1, Page 1. But if Chapter 7 is burning in your mind, write that. If one case example feels vivid, capture it. Later, you connect it to earlier sections. There's no penalty for starting in the middle, except the one you create by assuming you're not allowed. The trap is that much productivity advice pushes the opposite. Most project management tools present sequential checklists. Academic and business guides define rigid stages. Research first, draft second, revise third. That order looks clean on a chart, but ignores how brains actually operate. Focus fluctuates, moods shift, and external conditions rarely support perfect sequence.